We are going to defeat Daesh. I have no doubt about it. But even as we do that, there's a lot of work that we have to do in a measurable manner. First and foremost, we are going after their fighters. Our coalition has launched more than 10,000 airstrikes. We, the United States and France, a couple of other countries, have put special forces on the ground in Iraq and Syria in order to better enable a number of operations, whilst also providing increased amounts of training and equipment to our local partners. Together, we have pushed terrorists out of about 40% of the territory that they once controlled in Iraq and 20% in Syria. We've liberated Tikrit. 100,000 Sunni have returned to rebuild their homes in Tikrit, an extraordinary story that doesn't get enough attention or credit. We've liberated Sinjar, Ramadi, Hasaka, and Kobani. We're hammering Daesh's heavy weapons, its training camps, its supply routes, its infrastructure. And the military campaign to end Daesh's terrorism is, in fact, expanding by the day. But it's not enough just to knock them down militarily, which we are doing. You have to also ensure that they can't get back up. And that's why the second line of effort that we're pursuing is also critical, destroying their economic lifeline. In recent months, we have learned more about Daesh's sources of income, which has allowed us to be more strategic in targeting and hitting their oil production, their refineries, tanker trucks, cash centers, illicit banking facilities. For Daesh, lower revenues means fewer resources to finance military action and smaller paychecks to lure and sustain new fighters. Already, we are seeing the results of this. They've had to cut their paychecks to their fighters by 50%, and in some cases, they've had to cut it off entirely, and they don't have the ability as a result to continue this expansion. This also gives a boost to our third line of attack, which is to reduce the number of terrorist recruits. And because of tighter airport and border security, fewer terrorists are now getting into Syria and Iraq. And in fact, because of lower pay and constant danger, we know that more are in fact trying to get out. Meanwhile, with Arab states in the lead, we are doing more every day to minimize the impact of terrorist propaganda, to fight back against Daesh's apocalyptic distortion of Islam and its rhetoric, to prevent the incitement of so-called lone wolf attacks. In the United States, we recently opened a Global Engagement Center at the State Department to help dispel extremist groups' hateful lies in all forms of media, to take the people who were once the captives and exploited by Daesh and put them in the media to tell the stories to deter others from joining. We have a center opened up in Abu Dhabi. We have a new center that the Saudis, they will be starting, and we will be working with them. And the Malaysians are following, so that those who really can talk with authority about what Islam means in the languages and in each individual nation where it makes the difference will have the opportunity to speak to people in ways that they haven't yet. The global coalition has also reinforced our commitment with respect to the fifth effort, providing humanitarian relief to the millions who have suffered at the hands of Daesh as a result of the larger conflict in Syria. Now, the entire region is responding to this challenge, my friends. And that is essential because the needs are absolutely staggering. I see the Prime Minister of Norway here, others who were in London the other day. Extraordinary contributions by countries around the world to put $10 billion on the table. Turkey has taken in more than 2.5 million men, women, and children since the war began. And Lebanon and Jordan are giving refuge to 1 million people each. In Europe, you know better than anybody how the staggering humanitarian crisis is affecting the daily life of politics and of the social fabric of Europe. Unprecedented challenges. And with characteristic resilience, I'm proud to say and grateful for the fact that Europe is stepping up to meet these challenges. Chancellor Merkel and other leaders have demonstrated remarkable courage. I know it's difficult, Last night at dinner, I heard people telling me how it has cost her. We all understand. That's the nature of political courage, in helping so many who need help. And across this continent, communities are taking in those who are fleeing violence and saying no to the voices of intolerance and racism within societies. Now, I know how difficult it is to live our values. It is hard, but we do try. It's one of the things that binds us together. It's one of the great things that brings us here to Munich, is our common commitment to those values, which in the end make the difference in defining what life is really all about. In the United States, we recognize that while this crisis is not as real on our shores on a daily basis, we have a moral obligation to stand with our partners and to do more to assist in the relief effort. And that is why I was able to announce in London that we will contribute an additional $925 million to the already $4.5 billion we have contributed to Syrian refugees, making us, I think, the largest donor specifically to this plight of Syrian refugees, providing emergency care, education, and job help. And I think everybody understands, and this is perhaps the most important point, and this is what motivated us to go to Vienna twice with the great help of all the partners sitting here, the EU, Federica, others. Everybody came together in commonality with a recognition that writing checks is not going to solve the problem. We can't just endlessly be writing checks. We can't be endlessly fighting about whether Schengen is alive or dead or what's going to happen. We have to end this war. And the only way to do that is somehow to bring about the quickest possible political settlement, because almost everybody has agreed that if all one side does is escalate, the other side will too. And we can have an endless escalation between Iran, between Shia, between Sunni, between Saudi Arabia or Turkey or Qatar or any country of interest has an ability to blow this apart. One country. But it takes every country coming together in order to hold it together.